our judges, and we also have our timekeeper. I will start from our mommy, Mrs. Akita Debolaji. Hallelujah. Let's go down to celebrate. We also have our Pastor Victor Daramola. We have our mommy Regina Kende. We have our Pastor Wale Shonubi. We have our mommy, our Pastor Mrs. Akikube Abiola. And we have our accurate timekeeper tonight in the person of our Reverend Bamidele Shodipo. Let's celebrate, please. Let's celebrate all our joy. So tonight the stage is set. The stage is set. But before we move on, sorry, we have our mommy on stage, our deaconess, Lara Adediji. Thank you, ma. Sorry for me. Lara Adediji. So tonight, the stage is all set. What are we talking about? Today we are talking about Nigeria. And all our contestants on stage are here tonight to tell us something about Nigeria. I will not be the one to tell you. They themselves will come on stage and let you know something in particular about Nigeria. And we are going to be starting from our contestants from Midwest region. Let me just tell us the topic. Tonight we'll be talking about Nigeria's claim to be the greatest African nation is only a myth. The topic again. Nigeria's claim to be the greatest African nation is only a myth. Our contestants will be telling us what they know, what they believe concerning this team. And I will start from our contestant from the Midwest region. Please, let's put us together as we welcome on stage Sister Esther Wilson. Let's put us together to welcome her.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, impartial panel of judges, accurate timekeeper, my co-debaters, distinguished audience. Standing before you is Etienne Oluwabukola from Midwest Region, DS2 District, DS1 Zone, Orwar Branch. I'm here in full support of the motion that states that Nigeria's claim to be the greatest African nation is only a myth. Before I go on, I'd like to shed light on some important keywords. To begin with, Nigeria. The Federal Republic of Nigeria is a country in West Africa, bordering Benin on the west, Chad and Cameroon on the east, Niger in the north. It comprises...
Can we have a little building of the airport, sir? Thank you.
Bukola, a representative of Midwest Region, DS2 District, DS1 Zone, Orwar Branch. I'm here in full support of the motion that states Nigeria's claim to being the greatest African nation is only a myth. Before I go on, I would like to shed light on some important keywords. To begin with, Nigeria. The Federal Republic of Nigeria is a country in West Africa, bordering Benin on the west, Chad and Cameroon on the east, and Niger in the north. It comprises of 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory, where the capital, Abuja, is located. It is officially a democratic secular country. Africa. Africa is the second largest and second most populous continent in the world, having a landmass of 30.3 million square kilometers, covering 6% of the Earth's total surface area, and having a population of 1.2 billion as of 2016. Claim simply means to ascertain that something is the case, typically without proof or evidence. Greatness is a measure of ability, quality, or eminence considerably above average. And lastly, myth is a widely held but false belief. For a country to be called great, there are some parameters with which it has to be measured. These include development, technology, health-wise, and so much more. But unfortunately, Nigeria has failed to meet up with these parameters. Here with me are solid facts backed by research to buttress this claim. 1. Corruption. Proverbs 14 verse 9. My son, sinners do not entice thee. Corruption is a dishonest or fraudulent conduct by those in power. It is no news that Nigeria is a very corrupt nation, and this has dented our public image so badly that every Nigerian outside the state is seen to be corrupt and treated with disdain. Dating back to the 1990s, under the regime of General Sani Abacha, the then head of state, corruption was still very much present, as he himself was also a propagator. After his death, a huge sum of $323 million was recovered from his foreign account in Switzerland, which was fraudulently hijacked. That is to tell you that corruption is in our blood. It's like a widespread disease that goes from mother to child, and like a potent cancer that has eaten Nigeria to stupor, yet to claim to be the greatest in Africa. Unemployment is a situation whereby a willing and qualified job seeker could not find a favorable job to do at a particular time. Unemployment in Nigeria is a great concern, as unemployment rate is always on the rise. Earlier this year, Nigeria recorded its highest ever aggregate of unemployment rate, rising to a peak of 33.1%. Note, it is only in Nigeria you will find graduates of various fields, law, engineering, linguistics, doing all sorts of odd jobs, being motorcyclists, touts, keke drivers. You can imagine that. What an error. Yet we claim to be the greatest African nation. That is just a fairy tale. Also, the standard of living of Nigerian citizenry is nothing to write home about. Nigeria truly has the highest and the fastest growing economic rate, ranging at a rate of 7.4%. Yet our citizens still wallow in poverty. Parents go as far as selling their children to feed. That is to tell you the extent of this illness in Nigeria. Note, in 2004, the government developed the National Economic Empowerment and Development Strategy to tackle the issue of poverty, yet there have been no significant improvement. A country that cannot cater adequately for its citizens can in no way claim to be the greatest African nation. Also, sometimes I was wondering, when God said in Genesis 1 verse 3, let there be light, and there was light, I wonder if Nigeria was among, because the electricity supply in Nigeria is very epileptic in nature. Note, it is only in Nigeria that most Nigerians depend on the use of generators for both domestic and industrial use. We use the popular generator known as a better pass my neighbor. Also, note, it is in Nigeria we once supplied Ghana with electricity, but recently Ghana has celebrated years of uninterrupted power supply, yet we still languish in darkness, and we claim to be the greatest in Africa. Yes, greatness in darkness. Also, Nigeria likes patriotism. Patriotism is simply the love for one's country, and lack of patriotism among our leaders has been identified as a major setback in the country's march to greatness. Our leaders are just being sybaritic. Note, in Nigeria, when there is lack of patriotism, the people suffer. As it is lack of patriotism that will make public officials loot the nation's resources that have left the country poverty-stricken. It is also lack of patriotism that will make individuals loot billions of naira meant for the improvement of the aviation industry, led to the message. The enjoyment of the aviation industry. Nigeria travel in aircraft for Tosalan Airport. In conclusion, I hope with this 2 points I'm able to convince you with reasonable doubt that Nigeria is to be the greatest African nation. It's only but a myth. Thank you.
Let's put our hands together once again to celebrate her. Next tonight, still on that same topic, from the Midwest region, I would like to call on our sister first to be on stage.
Psalm 11 verse 3. If the foundation be destroyed, what can the righteous do? With this I say, good evening, Mr. Moderator, impartial panel of judges, accurate timekeeper, co-debaters, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, my audience. My name is Otokomeno F. Oganevo, and a member of Foursquare Gospel Church, Teenager Ministry, Divine Solution Assembly, Odion Zone, Warri District, Midwest Region. I'm here to support the motion which says Nigerians' claim to being the greatest African nation is only a myth. But before I symbolize my symbolical symbolism, I would like to define my keywords, which as follows: nation, a stable community of people formed on the basis of a common language, territory, economic life, and ethnicity. Myth is a story which embodies a belief regarding some fact or phenomena that is commonly heard but a misconception. I want to unveil some criterions for a country to be a giant, and these are economical, self-sufficiency, technological, and population. But instead of using this population positively, we are killing and destroying ourselves. However, the truth is bitter, but it must be declared, not minding the ears that we tingle. Proverbs 14:34, righteousness exalteth a nation, but sin is a reproach to any people. I was wondering why a country where a citizen could hardly sleep with two eyes closed is being said to be the greatest in African nation. What a sarcastic claim. Here are some facts to buttress my claim. 1. Poverty. 2. Self-battering. 3. ISO 9001. 4. Incident strike action. 5. Waste recycling. 6. Migration. 7. Insecurity. 8. BRICS. Listening to my first point. 4. Poverty. In 2002, Nigeria ranked the 6th country that housed the poorest people. In 2004, the 5th. And just recently, Nigeria has taken over from India, now the number 1 that is housing the poorest people in the whole wide world. And according to statistics, 40 million of our citizens are sleeping in churches, marketplaces, filling stations, under the cold and under bridges in places like Lagos, Delta, and Kano State. And you're telling me of Nigeria being a giant. How possible could that be? Secondly, self-battering. What kind of message is this country sending to the international community? Today you will hear that mysterious snake swallows Jam's money. Tomorrow you will hear that rat pursued Mr. President from Aso Rock. Another day you will hear that our girls have been kidnapped overnight. Another day you will hear that Soya Kid 31 were doing a Python dance operation in the east. And Nigeria never knew that all what they are doing have been monitored by international observers. James 4 verse 1 to 4. Nigeria leaders are fighting one another, and they are claiming to be the greatest in African nation. How possible could that be? Let's talk about ISO 9001. What is ISO? It's an international standard of organization that ensures that customers are satisfied by the commodity he or she possesses, and all the products coming from other countries are with ISO certification. But let me tell you, do you know ISO are chased by Nigerian products, especially the Igbo made, and they are claiming to be the greatest in African nation. Thirdly, and they are claiming to be the African nation. Fourthly, BRICS. What is BRICS? It's an association of giant countries with giant economic from the 5 continents of the world, with its headquarters in China. And your country, Nigeria, is not in this association. B is for Brazil, R for Russia, I for India, C for China, X for South Africa. And a younger brother to Nigeria, South Africa, with a giant economic and self-sufficiency, is representing Nigeria in this same association. In fact, scholars have concluded that Nigeria is not even the number 3rd greatest African nation, not talking of first. Last but not the least, insecurity. Is there really security in Nigeria? In other great countries, before you execute your evil plans, you are already trapped. But in Nigeria, Boko Haram says we are Boko Haram. Nigeria Delta militant says we are militant. Herdsmen are saying we are herdsmen. Cultists says we are cultists. Kidnappers are kidnapping for ransom. Cybercrime fraudsters are saying we are fraudsters. And the soldiers, police, navy are not doing their best. But their best are not just good enough. And you are telling me of greatness. How possible could that be? I believe with these few points of mine, I've been able to convince you beyond doubt that Nigeria is not the greatest in African nation. Thank you.
Let's celebrate her one more time. Let's put our hands together. Before we call on our next contestant, we'd like to introduce our father in the Lord, who is the chairman of tonight's competition, our Reverend Femi Okuni. Please, let's put our hands together to celebrate our father in the Lord. Let's celebrate our father in the Lord. You're welcome, sir. You're welcome, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Now we've heard from our contestant from the Midwest region. We'll be moving up to the opposing team. And the first on my list tonight is our sister, Kolawole Victoria. Let's put hands together for her.
Good evening, the chairman, panel of judges, timekeeper, co-debaters, ladies and gentlemen. I am Kolawole Victoria, representing Southwest Region. And I'm here to strongly oppose the motion that says Nigeria's claim to being the greatest African nation is only a myth. From the rich rainforest of the East, to the rocky hills of the West, the oil swamps of the South, to the golden sands of the North, a country with a land area of 923,763 square kilometers. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Nigeria, the heartbeat of Africa. The claim that Nigeria is the greatest country in Africa isn't a myth. It is very true. And I'm going to be showing us areas that verify my stance, backed up with facts and statistics. Some of these areas include population, labor force, industry, economy, education, religion, agriculture, mineral resources, and a little more. I am 1 in 5 Africans. I am so proud to be a Nigerian. With a population of about 195 million people, according to the United Nations' latest estimates, Nigeria is the most populous country in Africa. It is also home to Lagos, the largest urban center in Africa, with a population of about 21 million people. We are indeed obeying the command of God in Genesis chapter 1 verse 28 that says, "Be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth." In terms of population size, there is no country that can beat us. Furthermore, I'm sure Nigeria is lucky to have me as a person. You should as well. With our large number, we have a very large labor force consisting of very smart people. No wonder Proverbs chapter 10 verse 4 that says, "If the hand that is slack becomes poor, but the hand of the diligent is made rich," is evident in Nigeria. We've got a pool of wonderful writers such as Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, Wole Soyinka, Chino Achebe, T.M. Aluko, J.P. Clark, who have been nominated for and who have won a lot of literary awards. Men and brethren, the fastest computer in the world was invented by a Nigerian, Dr. Philip Emeagwali. We've also got entrepreneurs like Aliko Dangote, the richest man in Africa, Mike Adenuga, Folorunsho Alakija. She is a woman who have flourishing businesses and they are successful Nigerians. It can't be denied that Nigerians are actually making waves all over the country. Moreover, Nelson Mandela said, and I quote, "Education is the most powerful tool with which you can use to change the world." Nigeria has realized this and is trying to maximize this weapon, education. This country has the largest population of Africa's university-educated people, a population of 35 million. It's a population of 35 million people. Little wonder it is hard to find a country in which you won't find Nigerian professionals. We are everywhere all over the world. We fill the world. We rule the world. Also, Nigeria is heavily endowed with a lot of mineral resources. We also have fertile ground capable of growing a lot of crops. There's hardly any geopolitical zone that can't produce any crop. And it is in fact a fact that Nigeria is the first in Africa in terms of farm output. We are indeed a land that flows with milk and honey, just as God promised the children of Israel in Exodus chapter 3 verse 8. Also, Matthew chapter 28 verse 19 says, and the second of this is this: love your neighbor as yourself. Nigeria has been showing love to our fellow African countries. Recently, we were the backbone of the military troops that were sent to Liberia to stop the civil war that was in Liberia. We've also helped smaller countries like Ivory Coast, Sierra Leone, Gambia, and they've benefited from us. Who else can achieve this if not the big brother of Africa? And who is the big brother of Africa? Nigeria. Also, I would like to pose this question to my opponent. If not Nigeria, which other country can achieve this? If not Nigeria, which other country can we call to be the greatest in Africa? Nigeria is indeed great. The Bible says in Matthew chapter 28 verse 19, "Go therefore and preach the gospel." We are also achieving great things in preaching the gospel. And if you think that the things we are battling in this country makes us any less of a giant that we are, then you are wrong, because even the big countries that we look up to also have their own also have their own challenges. After all, there's a popular saying that says, the higher you go, the tougher it becomes. David Cameron said, and I quote, if the amount of money stolen from Nigeria was stolen from the UK, the United Kingdom will cease to exist. This statement has always been making me amazed at Nigeria, that Nigeria has gone through things that if the almighty United Kingdom had gone through, it would have fallen down like a pack of cards. But ladies and gentlemen, Nigeria passed through this fire. She came out alive, standing. Are you not amazed? Are you not proud to be a Nigerian? In conclusion, the fact that we are the greatest in Nigeria, the fact that we are the greatest in Africa, doesn't mean we should rest. Let us work on our weaknesses. Let us ensure that our strength does not dwindle. And together as a nation, we'll move from glory to glory and maintain our status as the giant of Africa. Thank you very much.
Let's celebrate this one. Nigeria is the giant of Africa. I would also like to call on our contestant from Lagos region. And first on the list is Owosheni Favor.
Good evening, sirs and ma'ams, honorable educators, voracious timekeeper, my worthy opponent, respected dignitaries in the house, beloved in Christ, good day. I am Owosheni Favor, supporting speaker from Lagos region, and it gives me great pleasure standing before you today to vividly assert the motion which says Nigeria's claim to being the greatest African nation is only but a myth. Claim can be defined as the act of saying that something is true, although it has not been proven, and other people may not believe it. Myth can be defined as something that many people believe but does not exist and is false. These definitions are according to the Oxford Dictionary. Right from our independence on the 1st of October 1960, Nigeria was supposed to be one of the greatest countries in the world. We were on the same scale alongside other developing countries like Japan and China, but 58 years after, those countries are developed, whereas Nigeria is still a developing country. Looking at great nations like Germany in Europe and China in Asia, the metrics that makes them the greatest of their regions are very obvious. But can we find such metrics in Nigeria? Absolutely not. For this reason, I stand here to confidently support this motion, with points backed up by scriptural references taken from the King James Version. Firstly, a large population is not a prerequisite for being the greatest nation. Being the most populated black country in the world, with a population of over 190 million people, Nigeria claims to be the greatest African nation. But a typical example of this is Europe. Russia is the most populated country in Europe, whereas Germany is the known greatest European nation. This reveals to us that a great nation is not based on our quantity, but our quality. Just like the story of David and Goliath. Although Goliath was said to be far more bigger than David, the reality of the results showed that David made more concrete success than Goliath. 1 Samuel 17 verse 50 says, and David prevailed over the Philistine with a sling and with a stone, and smote the Philistine and slew him, but there was no sword in the hand of David. However, the disposition of education in Nigeria. Proverbs 22 verse 6 says, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. Every nation aspiring for greatness knows that education aids the expansion of the vision and the mind of the people, and grows their capacity to identify their rights from their wrong, as well as understand the importance of peace, justice, and fairness for national development. But Nigeria's disposition to education is very worrisome due to less funding, outdated syllabus, as well as constant strike actions by the educational-related bodies. The Nigerian educational system has become a shadow of its former self. Proverbs 29 verse 15 says, a child left to himself bringeth his mother to shame. Honorable educators, if Libya could declare free education for all primary school children, and Nigeria still has more than 10 million children of primary school age out of school, and only 7% of the national budget allocated to education, I tell you our claim is definitely false. Furthermore, the poor condition of the economy. I would like to ask, does the country with the highest rate of people living in wretched poverty deserve to be called the greatest? Well, during the latest survey in the world, which was carried out earlier this year, Nigeria earned the highest rate of people living with wretched poverty. In fact, Nigeria experiences widespread inequality with an unemployment rate of 18.8% and a quarter of the population living on less than $1.25 per day. How long will this continue? 2 Corinthians chapter 8 verse 9b says, and Jesus Christ became poor, that yet through his poverty might be rich. More so, with management of resources. Few nations in the world are half as endowed as Nigeria in terms of natural resources. And they have developed their country through the maximum uses of these resources, whereas Nigeria is still waddling in the abyss of underdevelopment. My opponent said we have vast natural resources. Yes, we have iron ore, coal, granite, marble, coal, clay, zinc, amongst others. But are we producing enough for local consumption and export? This can be likened to the parable of the talent, of which Nigeria is like the third servant. We do not make maximum uses of our resources. Instead, we bury them. When Matthew chapter 25 verse 29 says, and unto everyone that hath shall be given, and he shall have in abundance. But from from him that hath not shall be taken, even that which he hath. Beloved in Christ, we were once the largest producer of palm produce and the second largest producer of cocoa, but we are now an importer of palm oil and a minor producer of cocoa, and we call ourselves the greatest. Come to think of it, where is the cocoa house in Ibadan and the groundnut pyramid in Kano, and we call ourselves the greatest? There is also inconsistency in the continuation of projects by our government. Once another person comes into power, thereby wasting money and resources. When Luke chapter 14 verse 28 says, and unto everyone that hath shall be given, and he shall have in abundance. But from him that hath not shall be taken, even that which he hath. Luke chapter 14 verse 28 says, for which of you intending to build a tower, sitteth not down first and counted the cost, whether he has sufficient to finish it? In conclusion, Ralph Waldo Emerson said, and I quote, great men